start from the beginning, right? Which would be finding the right partner. So I want to know what approach you take to meeting potential partners, and also how do you know that they are the right fit for your company?
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Clara. And first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, Philippe, and for all of you at Labiotech for the invitation. It's a pretty big title that I was given here, how to close a high-value pharma deal. I don't have all the answers, really, and probably after these 30 minutes, you still have questions, and I'm happy to address them also later. So I'm going to give these answers via the perspective of BioNTech and via our, let's say, evolution from a startup company to where we are today. Maybe you already highlighted kind of what we're doing. We are over 1,000 people now at BioNTech, actually, which I think makes us the largest private biotech in Europe, with a number of platform technologies. And when we started, coming now to your question, we were founded actually 2008. We started operations 2009. And we assembled technologies, or the founder and our scientists assembled technologies in the company that were striving to do, let's say, drug development differently. And already back then, trying to change the paradigm of cancer treatment by providing individualized cancer treatment, really understanding the tumor and tailoring drugs to the tumor. So already then, that concept was very innovative. I'm mentioning this in this context to your question because the company stayed under the radar for quite a long time. And I joined the company in 2013, in June of 2013, and at that time we did not have business development. There was a great concern that if we would go out and start partnering, we would give away some of the, let's say, trade secrets of the company, the know-how, and that would leak. So there was a great mistrust in that. We didn't have a website for 4 years, and at that time, 2013, we were about 120 people in Mainz, plus another 100 in fee-for-service businesses that we acquired in 2010. So the first question is, when is the right time for partnering? And at that point, the company received actually at the foundation a very large seed round, seed financing, which is public. It was about $180 million that was given to the company in 2008, which allowed the company to really focus on its science. All the money was invested in our platform technologies. So when we started going out, we already had a significant amount of scientific data, and in fact, we had already started treating the first patients. Now we were focusing, and we are known right now as an mRNA company, and that was a very novel drug modality. So our motivation for partnering was that our investors actually wanted to see some validation of these, back then, crazy ideas that our founders had. It sounded like science fiction at that time. And to see some validation from the outside. If pharma companies are also valuing this technology, and that's why we were tasked in doing a deal, and we effectively, my boss and my colleague, Sean Merritt, and I, we started going out in the fall of 2013 looking for partners. So we did that. Basically, we used two strategies. We used our existing network. Both Sean, myself, worked in the biotech and pharma industry for some time. We had an existing network, and then we did the partnering conferences. Yeah, we did the Bio Europe, the Bio US, JP Morgan, and so on. So basically, we started building a network. The value of this I can also speak to, and I come to that, but again, the motivation is very important. We wanted to see validation through a pharma deal of the technologies we have developed. We actually did the rounds, really. We traveled quite a bit to all of these conferences, building the network, and it was a very frustrating experience initially because we had a very new technology. We developed mRNA drugs, therapeutics, effectively cancer vaccines. And cancer vaccines at that time had a very bad reputation. There were some notorious failures from GSK and Merck, and cancer vaccines were tainted as not interesting to pharma, despite all of the novelties and innovations that we developed. Yeah, it was very difficult to initially get traction in this first year, and was a bit frustrating because the data that we had was really good and we were already in the clinic. One lesson that I learned at that time, and I can speak to that later, is there's very much a herd mentality of the pharma industry. And don't mean this too negative, but you know, there is a given headline out there, what we're looking for, and that everybody's going after. And independent if this is good data or there is innovation looming, right? It's very difficult to get this traction at these BD conferences. And coming to the point now, when I look back at the big deals that we did, I can also speak to that again, what we exactly did. This traction really mostly came from interactions that were provided by our supervisory board, scientific supervisory board, into and the academic network of our founders, into the scientists of the companies at a VP level typically. And that's kind of that's the real traction that you need to get, build these relationships, and then supported by the BD efforts, so to speak. But yeah, so we did all of this. We built a network. Everybody got to know us, and we are continuing actually to do the rounds. We still go to Bio and JP Morgan, but there's only one deal that really came from these partnering conferences where we built this contact. We kept on seeing these people, and eventually there was a opportunity, and a deal came out. But the other deals were mostly coming from the academic network from our founders.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were struggling for a while, right, to get these partners. So I was wondering, maybe you can tell us a bit more about when you finally had your first breakthrough. Like, how did it happen? Yeah. Did you do something different? What was the key, like the difference with what you had been doing before?
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle because when we went around, and at that time, as I said, we were like 200 people, had a clinical trial going, but we had no website, and people were kind of scratching their heads, you know, what kind of company is this in Germany? Nobody heard about us in the US, and then cancer vaccines anyway, mRNA they didn't know how to look at mRNA. So I think, first of all, I mean, we went out in fall of 2013. We did our first deal in May of 2015 with Eli Lilly on a cell and gene therapy, actually, not mRNA. We had a number of platform technologies that we developed, but on T-cell receptors. We had technology to identify high affinity T-cell receptors and develop them as products, so to speak. Yeah. So this was our first deal, which kind of put us on the map. So there was already some leverage that we gained. We followed up actually in 2015 with another deal with Genmab, it was a 50-50 collaboration, and later that year in November a deal with Sanofi on mRNA drugs. So the breakthrough though really came, I think, first of all from doing these deals, you know, getting your first deal done, which was catered by these personal interactions on a scientific level. But the real breakthrough for us was really in 2015, when there was a validation from the outside, from academia, on the technologies that we developed. Yeah? Starting 2013 and 14, everybody was talking about checkpoint inhibitors, and that was the hot thing. And all of a sudden, by the end of 2014, early 2015, there were publications in Nature and Science showing that these checkpoint inhibitors work through allowing T cells to target neoantigens. Yeah? And all of a sudden, neoantigens was the hottest thing in town, right? Everybody was running after neoantigens. So again, this herd mentality. We talked about neoantigens already in 2013 and talked about individualized therapy, and the general feedback that we got pretty much from all the pharma companies was it's never going to be a pharma product because the batch size of manufacturing this is like n equals 1. Not a pharma concept. Pharma likes to manufacture things, batches, big batches, puts them on the shelf and then sells them to, you know, certain patient populations. That all changed in 2015 with the neoantigens becoming very hot, and again these were cancer vaccines, and we had already invested quite significantly in that technology, and I think we consider ourselves a leader in that field. We were founded on that, so there was a lot of scientific credibility that we had, which kind of pushed us over the edge, and leading to a very large deal with Genentech and Roche in 2016, which was for 310 million upfront. Very much driven also by a colleague just described CRISPR and Vertex recognizing the novelty of CRISPR and the game-changing technology, and We also had, I think, this opportunity with Genentech and Roche, who also saw that opportunity for this process of targeting new antigens that we developed, which can address multiple cancer types as the process is the product, you know, and they had the opportunity then to do this deal, which amazingly then really people only after that people started recognizing us also in the United States. So that caused quite a bit of attention that we got through the deal. So I think the key message or the key answer to your question is that I think it's really the differentiating science that, you know, allows you to close these big deals. The colleague before, Rutger, he described the CRISPR technology. We have these new antigen targeting technologies. We have mRNA, and we don't only have this preclinically, but we have to hold the value chain from early discovery to preclinical studies all in-house. We have clinical project management, we have GMP manufacturing. So all of this we can provide to companies, and that's kind of the differentiation factor that we saw from other companies at that time.
Yeah. So the technology seems to be very important to setting up the partnership, and as you said, you have a lot of different technologies in BioNTech. So I'm wondering, do you need different strategies to partner different technologies, or yeah, how does it work?
Absolutely, yeah. So let's stay with the mRNA technology, which we developed, which has various applications, therapeutic applications, from oncology to infectious disease to rare disease. As you introduced us, myself, you introduced us as an immune oncology company, which is certainly what we are most known for. Yeah. But we also work in infectious disease and in rare disease, which is lesser known. But when we thought about, you know, how do we want to partner, we decided that we don't want to give away value from the company in the core expertise that the company has, which is immuno-oncology. Yeah, that's what we do. That's what our clinical trials are right now. And we decided not to license our technology and give away rights, but we decided to co-develop. We do 50-50 partnerships in oncology. The reason for that, I think, is actually less financially driven, yeah, but it's more driven of having a seat at the table and having control and being able to steer the collaboration as an equal partner. It's something that's extraordinarily important to us. The reason for that is, and I think the colleague before also alluded to that, this is a novel technology. mRNA, pharma companies are very good in developing drugs and running clinical trials and bringing products to market. But this is a novel technology. And again, I think this theme that was discussed before of this biotech pharma world, or these borders that you had before, that they are breaking down. I think that's also the case for what we are doing with these individualized cancer treatments. And we understood how mRNA works and how you develop it. We had our clinical trials already running with mRNA, and we knew how to treat patients. And we absolutely wanted to make sure that this is done correctly. Of course, if you do a licensing deal, it's kind of a, let's say, nice, sweet, and clean deal. At a certain point, you hand the asset over to the pharma partner, they develop, and you collect your royalties and milestones. But we wanted to be sure that this is developed the right way, and that's why we did 50-50 deals in oncology. That comes, of course, with a lot of costs. Yeah? We talk about 50-50 cost sharing also, so we carry 50% of the costs for the clinical trials, and then again we gain 50% of the profits. But it's certainly a way to make sure that whatever is developed in this collaboration has your input. Yeah? Other than that, we also did a deal with Pfizer in 2018 in the field of infectious disease, in influenza specifically, also using mRNA, which is a novel drug modality in influenza or for prophylactic vaccines. There we say, okay, this is flu vaccines. That's a totally different ball game. That's a different story. It's a different market. We provide our expertise for a certain period of time during a research phase, and then we hand this over, and we enable the partner specifically for that field in influenza to continue developing the technology and manufacturing the technology. But there in infectious disease, we have a different strategy, business development strategy, which is more license driven. The same is true for rare disease, because there we are not the experts. We need to rely on partners to bring in the disease area expertise. So there are different strategies depending on what kind of assets we are talking about that we are partnering.
Okay. And so once you've actually found, a potential partner and you have a sort of strategy, a plan, comes the time of negotiating the term sheet, right? So I just want to know more about how do you approach this? Are there any specific terms that you think are very important for the company to have an advantage or to have a good deal?
Upfront, very important. But let me step back and say, we are always reminded by our CEO, CSO that science is driving business development. I think in all the deals that we did, in these big deals, we were able to build a very strong tie between the lead scientists in the company and the pharma company and our CEO, CSO. Yeah? And that's something that needs to be absolutely established, and I think it's important to build good relationships there, take them out for dinner and see that you all get along, make some jokes and just have a good time. I think it's really important that besides the BD relationships and negotiating term sheets, on the background, this is all done on the background of having a scientific connection and a deep understanding of each other, what you're trying to achieve. And we are always reminded by our CEO that science is driving business development. So we're making very sure before we get engaged into too deep term sheet discussions, there is a project plan and both companies have an understanding of what they are trying to achieve with this deal. Yeah? And once that is done, yes, we do discuss the financials, which are, of course, as a developing biotech company, as a growing biotech company, we have used deal making in the past couple of years since 2015 to really finance the company, which was very much driving our corporate strategy through these deals and the income that we generated. In total, maybe there were numbers were mentioned. In total, we generated 550 million through upfront payments through these deals that we mentioned, which allowed us to do a lot of things in bringing our own products to the market. Maybe that's something I wanted to say actually. When you enter into negotiations or when you start a business development strategy, it's very important to understand, or to be clear what the company wants to achieve. We at BioNTech, we always knew we wanted to become an established European biopharmaceutical business. We want to develop our own drugs. We want to bring our own drugs to market. We want to build a commercial infrastructure. So we knew we had to retain ownership of these drugs. And we used the pharma deals when we negotiated them, come to the financials in a minute, to have also rights of co-promotion, for example. Yeah? So we kind of piggyback on the pharma deals to start building a sales force for co-promoting in certain territories, So that's very important that you have this in mind, what you want to do with the company. Other smaller biotechs have different exit strategies. They want to bring a drug into phase 1 or phase 2 trials, clinical proof of concept. It's maybe only one technology platform they have, one lead asset, and they want to get sold afterwards. So it's kind of the strategy of the company, of course, is driving your business development strategy. Yeah? And in terms of negotiating, the upfronts are very important to us. We have, I think, some very high value deals in terms of upfront. I mentioned the Genentech deal with a 310 million number. We have the Sanofi deal for flu only for $125 million. So we communicate that actually fairly early, and we set the stage for that, so they're not completely shocked when they hear our expectations. So it's certainly an argument you have to make, for at some level also in our case for preclinical technologies that have not been in the clinic, asking for 100 million upfront or 120 million upfront. What I can say with regards to the upfront, and in our experience, in my experience, pharma certainly has the money. You get a lot of arguments back why they can't pay this. I do remember conversations with Genentech on the 300 million that were rather intense. And it took a long time for this to go through, really. But rather, I think it's very important, first of all, when you come up with the upfront, I think it's really important to, when you start out, look at the benchmarks. What deal did the pharma company do? What are the benchmarks in the field? So create references. And then you kind of build on that. What else, what differentiates you from these benchmarks? You know, what additional IP do you have? What's the IP worth? Is it worth an extra 5 million on top, 10 million on top? What other components are part of the deal? Do you offer exclusivity for this company? Is it a broad exclusivity that you can't work with anybody else? That's very expensive. You add another, just again, don't know your technologies, but 10, 15 million per year on top of that. So basically what you're trying to do is you build your upfront in a rational way. In a rational way that you can justify it, and it's very important, and not just to come up with a number, say, I want 100 million, but you need to really believe in that, and you need to be able to defend it. And we have been able to do so. Yeah, we strongly believed in the numbers that we proposed, and we thought this was actually a fair value in all of the cases that we did. And in that case, in all the cases, I have to say, we were able to convince the other company that they're getting a fair value. And we have been also at times very transparent in how we come up with this upfront. Yeah? Some companies believe in it, others don't. Yeah? And don't forget, with every deal that we did, there were 2 other deals that we didn't do. Yeah? We always typically say we need 3 negotiations to get 1 deal. That's kind of our experience. And the other people didn't believe in it, and we didn't do the deal. But we also didn't waver. Yeah? We did. If we say 100 and they say 20, then you walk away. I mean, there's just no basis for it then. But what we found is, yes, there's always an outcry on these enormous amounts that we're asking for, but we try to rationalize it, we try to explain it. We are pretty repetitive in preaching these messages over weeks and weeks and weeks to hammer it into them what they are getting for, because you need to enable them to defend that deal in front of their executive leadership team. Yeah, so that's very important. The business development guys, they need to go back to their executives and tell them, look, they're asking us 100 million and we think it's okay because, so you need to train them and you need to enable them. Okay. And instead of lowering, so what we also did, instead of lowering the upfront, we say, okay, but maybe you get something else, yeah? So let's say, throw in another target or another 2 targets or another technology. Yeah? So you kind of try to justify that money. So by doing that, I think we have been able to get, I think, very nice deals done and create value for the company. Yeah? So the upfront is very important to us. Mm-hmm. Okay. With the size of the company that we are right now, actually, yeah, it sounds arrogant when I say that. I don't mean it like that, but we can't do small deals anymore, right? If we do the stress and the work on getting a deal done for 20 or 30 million, it's almost not worth our time, because with the burn rate that we have with 1,000 people and 6 running clinical trials plus 50/50s with the pharma partners, 20 or 30 million, it's not worth the effort, but it just doesn't do anything for us. So we are already setting, when we talk with pharma right now, we're already setting the stage and saying, it's got to be a 3-digit number. That's pretty much it. And we're in a lucky position right now. Again, this doesn't want to sound arrogant here, but we have, with the deals that we did, we kind of set our own benchmarks right now, and people know what they're getting into. Besides, we're in the field of immuno-oncology. The upfronts have gone up over the past 4 or 5 years tremendously, yeah, and so we're kind of benefiting from that.
Okay. Yeah.
Was there a second part to the question? Other deal terms?
Not that I remember. And actually now there's time for questions if anyone
already
has one.
So actually I have two questions. The first is, I'm just wondering if you are not at some point sometimes frustrated to have only the oncology focus, when you can mention Moderna in the US. Yeah. At the first place they decided to develop several modalities, and that for a big guy like you and for another pharma, it was sometimes challenging and frustrating just to be able to sell this field. My first question, and second one is, that you clearly mentioned, and absolutely right, that you were kind of science fiction 10 years ago. But once the industry flipped, suddenly, is it not more an advantage to be as a kind of oligopoly, say you have 2, 3, 4 max mRNA company already visible at that stage, and that you can not set up your price, but leverage, there is a deal on the other side of the ocean, look at the metrics, so we are on par, so we cannot accept something below, and same for public market now, that could set up some price. So just to see how you leverage that.
Okay, to the first part of your question, I mean, we had our own strategy, we didn't look over the ocean, so to speak, what these guys were doing. In terms of, I mean, they were most focused on infectious disease initially. You know, in terms of cancer vaccines, I remember we published a Nature paper on our individualized platform technology, preclinical, and then Moderna announced they're doing the same thing. It's not frustrating, it's just part of the game, you know, but we have our strategy of first of all, being good citizens of the scientific community. We like to be innovative. We like to publish our results. I mean, patent protect them, publish our results, and we continue to do that. We were set up with the aim of changing cancer therapy. That's why our technologies are focused on cancer. That's why the initial deals are focused on cancer. We are much broader than only cancer vaccines, right? Which is not maybe that obvious right now, but there's a lot of stuff that we're doing with oncology. So looking at the Moderna deals, I think they did a good job. They have a good partner with Merck. Huh?
I don't know if it was good, but not bad.
Not bad. Let's say no, but look, it's good. It's good for the field, right? I mean, did it help us? I think there are comments to make. To say yes, but also we help them quite a bit in getting their oncology deals. And infectious disease is something that, you know, we're very conscious about starting partnering discussions when the technology is solid, when there is a good preclinical basis at least to start partnering, and that's why in terms of our approach in infectious disease, we may be behind from the outside with Moderna, but we are different. There's a reason why Pfizer paid 125 million to us and not to Moderna or CureVac. And there are other technologies that we have which complement what others are doing, and so we create value by that. And really, again, it comes down to the science. So we're not too frustrated about it, actually. And with the second part was with the evaluations or the benchmarks they create. I think, it helps there. I mean, we entered the field very early, right, with neoantigen targeting, which was already thought about by our founders in 2006, 2007, just to put this in perspective, how advanced they were, or Ugur Sahin was. But there are not too many companies out there to do it, so we're at the right time at the right place. There's certainly a benefit, And what happened in 2015 with the pathway of checkpoint inhibitors targeting neoantigens, But I tell you something. I mean, right now neoantigens, it sounds like, oh yeah, klar, okay, that's working. That's super hot. We want that. If I tell people right now, you know what? There's something else, much smarter that you can do, that works just as well, much easier. No. We want neoantigens. It's the same mentality again. It's just like one or two companies are getting it, but the rest is again, no. We're looking for neoantigen vaccines. So it's a bit of a herd mentality, unfortunately.
So, one quick question.
Did you ever consider a strategy to create special purpose vehicles around your assets?
Just like Moderna tried.
I don't know what Moderna did it, but
I mean,
did it so I know it from there.
No, we haven't done that at this point. No, we
considered it and declined or not discussed?
I mean, we were set up, BioNTech is set up as a holding with subsidiaries, GmbH subsidiaries that are all structured around a technology platform. So in a way, we already have, we have done that already, but there's a lot of cross-functional stuff going on, and so we have considered it, but around specific assets, not. Around technology platforms, yes.
and
Thank
enjoy
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.